What's up, guys? It's your girl, Miss O, and we are back with another review with me. And today we are going to get into the Real Housewives of Rhode Island Season 1 Reunion, Part 1, and the reunion looks. A lot was going on with this reunion. This reunion, again, solidifies why I think this is the best franchise out right now. But with that being said, do me a favor, like the video as you come in, subscribe to the channel because I need some subscribers and let somebody know I'm over here doing reviews. So, as I said, we are here to talk about these ladies right here, the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. And today we are going to get into their reunion looks. So, this is a collage picture of all of the housewives, and clearly the theme is seaside. So, all of the ladies showed up in their different shades of blue, and I'm gonna say I'm here for it. So we're going to go down the line with the ladies, and first we are going to speak on Rulla's look because I mean, WTF, what a drastic look it is. So we find out at the very beginning, and I love how she just came out and said, "Look, I had some work done," because you know how the girls like to act like they had no enhancements done. Move on. So we find out that Rulla has had a rhinoplasty and a lip lift. Um, it definitely has changed the look. She does look pretty. She looks younger. I'm sick of the wigs. We have to do something about that. But to the look, I love this shade of blue on her. This is either a satin material. Yeah, a satin material. I do like the dress, but I don't like the dress on her. I think Rulla is very thin, and I would love to see this dress on a woman with a lot more curves, you know. But it's a beautiful dress. Shoes, banging. Overall, I would give. I'm gonna have to give Rulla an 8 because she just showed up totally different. Like I said, I do like the dress. I just don't think it's the dress that fits her body, but she looks great. So we're gonna move on to her arch nemesis, Miss Joellen herself. I love Joellen's look. I love this shade of blue on her. I do wish she would have had maybe a different shoe or maybe some jewelry on the ankle because you got that split. You're showing a lot of leg. We're going to be attracted to the leg. So give us something to look at other than the leg because the shoe isn't giving to me. Also, I wish you would have did something different with your hair. This is your go-to look. Now, I do like the color upgrade from black to brown. I think that is a beautiful color on you. But for this particular dress, I would have loved to have seen the neckline. So I think you should have either had a pin back pony or a high updo. But overall, I do like the dress. I would give this a I would give this a solid 8. And it's because with some other changes, it could have been a 10. Moving along, we are going to go to our girl, Miss Nosy Rosie, who showed up and showed out, might I add. Anyways, she's giving me pageant girl vibes. I do think this is her style. It's sheer, it's giving a little bit of sexy, a little pickable. Me personally, I like to pick at things, so this particular dress wouldn't be for me because I've been and picked all those little things. But overall, I like the neckline. I like the little mesh going in the center, giving you that cleavage illusion. She has showcased a plethora of hairstyles throughout the season. So I do believe that her hairstyle is semi appropriate for what we got going on here. But again, um, if I was to get to see the full back of the dress, I would be able to determine if I really like her hair or not. We can't see her shoes, and I think that's a lot of the issue with me reviewing some of these reunion looks because shoes makes the outfit. It makes the look. So not being able to see her shoes is a little bit of an issue for me. But it's Nosy Rosie. She never can go wrong. I love her. I love her style. So I'm gonna give her a 9.5 because I think for the first reunion look, this is what you're supposed to look like. Moving on to her friend, Miss Crybaby Spice, also known as Ashley. I think Ashley hit it on the head. I think she gave us everything that we were looking for the reunion look. My only issue with her look is her hair. I would have liked to see something different on Ashley as far as her hair. But the dress with the drop down sleeve, beaded sleeve or crystal sleeve, love it. I love the sequence. I love that she said, look, I want to be comfortable. I need a heel. I don't want no stilettos. I don't need no 6 inches. Give me a large platform, baby, because we're going to be here at least 12 hours. Love it. Completely, completely love it. And then we are going to move on to Miss Alicia herself looking like the mermaid right from Rhode Island. I absolutely adore her look. I, I saw her walking up. I like the back of her dress. I love the sequins. I love the shade. I love that at the bottom it gives you like this unicorn mermaid tail thing going on. Her hair was definitely appropriate because we're on mermaid theme, right? So her hair giving that little wet look, absolutely love it. She get a 9.8 for me. I would have loved to see what her shoes look like, and I actually would have liked if she would have had like some arm jewelry on going up the arm, kind of making it more geared towards that mermaid look that she was going for. But overall, I love Alicia look, and I might be biased because I love me some Alicia. Okay. So next we had to move on to Miss Rhode Island herself, Miss Kelsey. And I love this shade of blue on Kelsey. It looked like she took a page out of Dr. Mz.OSaidWhat from the Housewives of Potomac. If you know, you know. I actually do love her hair because it's giving this wet look of this latex look feel of her dress. I hate that we don't see the shoes, but when she was walking up, I happened to see that her shoes were black and they were strappy. I mean, I guess if you're not going to see the shoes, give me that. Definitely should have did something different with her nails. Love her makeup. I understand why she went with this look and not more like a pageant look or a ball gown look because she's done these things and she's tired. So I definitely understand that. So moving forward, last but certainly not least, the Queen Mother herself, Miss Delusional Liz. Liz, I love this dress. I love that your dress is age appropriate. I love those long, gaudy sleeves on your dress. I love your look. I really do. Again, can I see your shoe? Your way of thinking, sabotaging. We'll get more into that into the review, but I love your look. I was hoping that things with you and Joellen would change, but we see that's not. So, moving along, we are going to go back to the group picture. So, the reunion starts. We see all the ladies pulling up at the venue where they're going to do a shoot at. We do get to see the set. First thing we get a hold of is Rulla in her new face. And everybody is inquiring what she did. She lets us know she had a rhinoplasty and a lip lift. Hey, if it works for you, it works for me. I think you look great. I'm sick of your tight wigs, but I think you look good. So all the ladies come to the stage. Joellen is the last one to walk out. As she come up, she lets everybody know they look great, which you guys do. And we get into Andy begins to introduce the ladies and speak. And first he speaks to Liz and he says, "You didn't bring your dinghy," and that just show you how rich these ladies are. Okay. Anyways, she said, "No, not today." So then he speaks to Alicia and he had to ask her, "Did you drive yourself here today?" She said, "No, no, no." Andy, you know that lady was not getting in no car and driving herself and nowhere. So then he gets to Kelsey and he said, "Kelsey, I did not hear a siren when you put up." And she said, "No," and I'm paraphrasing, "I left it at home today." Um, isn't that siren in the car your ex-boyfriend gave you? And if you're still with Billy, do you still have that car? Because I thought Billy wanted you to cut all ties. Hopefully we get some answers in part 2 on that. So then we get to my girl Joellen. And he said, "Hey Joellen, who's watching the kids today?" And we find out it isn't her mom. And we'll get into that a little more into the review. So then we get to my girl Rosie, Miss Nosy Rosie. We get to her and Andy asks her, "Does this feel like the set of Road Tripping?" And she said, "No, this is actually far more better than the set of Road Tripping." Then he speaks to Ashley. He says, "Hi, Ashley. Do you think we'll get any tears today?" And this is why I have coined her Crybaby Spice. The lady cries all the time. Deeper into the review, we find out how many times she actually cried within the season. Moving on. And then we get to Rulla. He said, "Hey, Rulla, you look just in the face." And Rulla said, "Yeah, after 20 something years, I decided to get a rhinoplasty. Um, was that the real reason, Rulla? But see, with you, we will never know the truth." Moving on. So, with this being the first season, Andy wanted to know how the ladies are navigating being just regular role islanders to becoming housewives. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, it could be a lot. Sometimes you can run down to the grocery store with some shades on and a hat, and now that you're on Rhode Island, Housewives of Rhode Island, you cannot do that anymore. You have to be done up, you have to be appropriate, or what the viewers may deem fit as appropriate. Anyways, moving along. So after a few more questions, Andy says, "One of the great things about watching you ladies was that you guys have deep roots and deep connection. Some of you guys have known each other since birth." And then he proceeds to ask, "Liz, who have you known the longest?" And clearly that is Alicia, because she's been around since Alicia's been born. So Andy also asked the ladies, how do you feel about the viewers not being able to tell you guys apart? And Andy, I don't know what viewers you're talking about, but the only person that we could not tell apart was Liz and Dolores. That is it. Kelsey and Rosie do not look alike. A bunch of these ladies do not look alike, but I do like their answer. Rosie said, "I like the comparison, but no, I don't believe me and Kelsey look alike." As she said, it's a compliment to me because all of these ladies up here look great, and I would love to be compared as, looking like them. And that was our little segue over to Miss Nosy Rosie and Kelsey. And I'm so glad Andy wanted to go with this situation first, because even after all of this, guys, I'm still not clear on what the fuck Kelsey's issue is with Rosie. So when we get to season 2, if Rosie just start eating your ass up, Kelsey, you have begged for it. Moving along. So we get into the whole season of it all. And he brings up that the ladies, it seemed like things are good between you guys because you guys made up at Rulla's Arabian theme party, correct? So he wanted to know, where did they stand now? Rosie getting straight to the point, she said, "I said I would coexist, and I mean, I'm trying to coexist." Then Kelsey phrased back with her bullshit and said, "I think my apology was pretty in line with her apology. That lady didn't apologize to you. She said she just want to coexist." I think that's what I'm remembering from the episode. So then Kelsey brings up Ms. Nosy Rosie's confessional. Like, she said it was the worst apology she got in her life. And thank you, Rosie, for doubling down on what you said in your confessions, because, like she said, this was the worst apology I ever received in my life. So Kelsey was like, at that moment, it seemed like she wasn't interested in the apology or wanting to develop a friendship. And Rosie like, why would I be interested in the apology at that point? So Rosie defended her apology. She said, "Why would I want to come to you and give you a heartfelt apology when the apology you was giving me was basically telling me that you didn't do anything to me, but you will apologize to me? Why apologize to me if you didn't do anything?" One. And then two, like she said, "Why would I give you a heartfelt apology? You've been doing mean shit to me this whole season, and I can apologize. I can take accountability for my actions and how I responded to you, but it was more than fucking deserving. You showed up to my house on my block with an ordinance, a noise ordinance, with a blowhorn, talking shit." So the question that all of the viewers and your castmates have all been wanting to know, Andy asks, Kelsey and Rosie, what's even started the feud? Because it clearly could not be a haircut. Like, what is it? And I'm waiting on Kelsey herself response. So Kelsey begins to backpedal and pussy pop and said that she was privy to a lot of information before filming. So she was basically judging her off of those personality aspects and characteristics. Now, Rosie just jumps in and says, "Here we go again," because Rosie know that this little rumor, whatever she had going on within the season, was going to be brought right back on this stage. So I'm gonna sum it up for you guys. Basically, Kelsey is pissed that Rosie is supporting other ladies, but not her. She is mad that Rosie did not post the haircut. And why would she post the haircut, Kelsey, when this wasn't discussed beforehand and she paid? I don't think you know how to run your business. Anyways, So then Crybaby Spice jumps in, and I like her because she has a broader perspective. Like she hears both sides and then come to a logical perspective conclusion. She says, you know, it seems like for you, Kelsey, that the post was more important in developing a friendship with Rosie. So because my girl Ashley is in the influencing business, Andy asks her, okay, well, in the business of influence, and I'm paraphrasing some of these questions, in the business of influence, who was wrong in this situation? Was it Rosie or was it Kelsey? And she said there was no discussion that was made previously about posting, and I think because she paid for it and she does have a Venmo receipt, I think, it wasn't up to Rosie to do it. I'm paraphrasing on that. And then Kelsey chimes in and was like, well, I'm not negating that she paid for it. Well, this is your business. It is your job to get pictures. It is your job to post. It is your time, it is up to you to add Nosy Rosie in that post, but that's your job. And I think she's jealous because she brought up Nosy Rosie posting about Piece of Mama, Alicia's business. And Rosie, to her defense, she said, look, I eat there. I like they shit. I'm going to post about it. That's just it. But from Rosie's perspective, she like, look, I refer people to you. I'll text you about the haircut. I really did my part. But you mad because I didn't post you. Like, this is childish. Kelsey does not like Rosie. She already had this drummed up what's the word I'm using? She already had these feelings towards Rosie. She is judgmental. She thinks she knows some shit and she don't. So Andy says, Kelsey, do you like her? Asking her, do she like Rosie? And she was like, I don't like, Rosie is like a silent killer. And all Kelsey is doing is deflecting. Cause she like on the show, she'll smile on my face, but when she go on her confessionals, she talks shit. Duh, that's what the fuck you're supposed to do in your confessionals. Your confessionals is filmed after some of the episodes are filmed or after the whole season is completed and you film your confessionals. Kelsey, how many times have you talked shit about Rosie in your confessional? Like, I can't fuck with you, Kelsey, because you play the victim and also you don't take accountability for your shit. All you have to do is say, I don't fuck with Rosie. I don't know what it is about her, but it's something about her I don't like. We can coexist in this friend group, but I don't fuck with her. But no, you cannot do that because you're not woman enough to do that. Like, it's really disheartening that you don't like this girl because yes, she's nosy. She gonna get up in your business, but she come across as a sweetheart. As we get some of the information from Ashley, now it might come off as biased because her and Ashley are really friends. But when she go into the details of what's going on, you can understand why she is speaking up for her friend. So again, Kelsey is playing the victim. She said she instigates me, girl. Bye. You thought you was gonna come around and boss hog your way around, and you thought you was gonna bully her, or you thought that you was gonna look. The energy that Kelsey gives is I'm Miss Rhode Island, bitch, and you gonna bow down to me. And Rosie came to the group. No, I may not have the kind of money that these ladies do have, but what I do have is my personality, and bitch, that's something you cannot buy. Kelsey, let it go. You don't like her. You don't like her because you feel like she's better than you. You projected that all season. Let it go. The fact that you got on this reunion show and could not give the viewers a valid reason as to why you do not like her is some bullshit. So then we get into Slam Pig. Andy wanted to know where she got the word Slam Pig, and we are so gun ho on that word. Rosie said, look, I heard it from one of Alicia's friends. So Kelsey wanted to bring up the definition of slam pig and talking about some pump and dump, the actual meaning of it. Look, Kelsey, she was trying to call you a slam pig because she knew what that was inferring to. She didn't want to just outright call you a whore. But if it was me, I would have just called you a whore and said that you was a sucker and just left it at that. But no, Rosie said, hey, it's just the term you use. It's a term like whore. I said it to her. I told the bitch to get out of my house like 75 million fucking times. She did not get out the house. Hey, slam pig, go. So Kelsey wanted to know, am I a slam pig? Am I an ugly, promiscuous woman who pumps and dumps? Am I a slam pig? And then she said, I don't think you necessarily fit the full prescription. And I'm paraphrasing this. But in other words, Kelsey, you are a whore. You provide yourself for services and get things in return. Call it what you want. So Kelsey had an angle, so she asked her again, "Am I a slam pig?" And Rosie said, "No, I don't think you were a slam pig. I was just pissed off, and I said it." So Kelsey turns back, "So so we're just saying things that we don't think is true. Oh, okay." And then she said, "Yeah, but at least I can take accountability for the shit that I'm spewing out here. You're just being a mean girl." And I'm paraphrasing. Kelsey, let it go. You're not a slam pig. The lady don't think you're a slam pig. She thinks you're a whore. And find a real reason to be pissed off at Rosie. Rosie, season 2, give her a real reason to be pissed off at you. Someone talking to Andy, Rosie said, "Look, she can come after my house, she can come after my career, she can come after my finances, but God forbid, I call her a slam pig. It's just too much for her to handle." So Kelsey's paying the word police, and she said, "I have never violently or forcibly attacked you." And I'm so glad Rosie stood 10 tones down. So she said, "So you didn't attack me when you came to my fucking house with those sirens being a bitch talking about 8,000 square feet." And then they go on with the receipts and play the scene. So Andy says, "Show of hands. Who all thought that was funny?" And there was no shocker there, just like Rosie said, because Liz, Kelsey herself, and Joellen raised her hand. And Joellen, as much as I like you, right here in this moment, I'm just going to be honest. You pissed me off here because I don't understand what's going on with you and Rosie. Because somewhere within the season, it seemed like y'all was cool or y'all was trying to develop a friendship. We're going to see how season 2 prevails. So Andy wanted to ask Rosie, so after the show aired and you sat back and you watched the show, do you think her pulling up with the siren was a joke? And again, just like when she experienced it and when she watched it, she didn't think it was a joke. She thought it was her trying to get another moment at her expense. And I'm in full agreement with Rosie. When I first saw this, I didn't think it was a joke. I don't understand where you got the good idea that you should pull up to someone's house with a loudspeaker, saying what you're saying after y'all just made up and y'all was getting into it before then. I don't know you like that. You can't joke with me like that. And Kelsey, you knew that. You understood that, but you was trying to get a moment, like she said. It's just a mean girl move. And you're second to the head of mean girl. And the first one, I'm gonna have to give it to you, Joe. You're a mean girl. But she can own her shit because she said it. I can be a bitch. So Joellen asked her, "Is there a no noise ordinance?" And she's like, "Actually, it is." And Rulla jumps in and said, "Oh, you would know, baby. When I tell you, Rulla is hot this episode, and it looks like she's gonna be hot this whole reunion, but she's hot at the wrong motherfucking person." And I feel so bad for you, Rulla, because you are constantly sitting up there making yourself look like a dumb ass fool. Like my girl Niecy Dixon says, "Baby, you got your clown mask on, and it is showing." Oh my god. So there was a viewer question, and I'm going to paraphrase the question because it was long, but pretty much she was like, "You can't get up here and be emotional when you had a tape measure ready." And Rosie was like, "I had a tape measure ready because she said she was going to have a tape measure ready, and I was just giving her what she wanted." So as Rosie giving her explanation, Andy said, "It looked like you was ready for a fight," and she said, "No, I wasn't ready for a fight. I actually was, since it's been the talk of the town, I wanted to give her the opportunity to go ahead and measure." So then Kelsey fights back and says, "It's not about the number. Clearly, it is about the number." She like, "I hope you build Taj Mahal." She's like, "It's about the embellishment." She was like, "You know what this is about. It's about you discrediting me. And you've been accusing me of multiple affairs on people." So Kelsey said, "Okay, so not a slam fig. Do you think that I suck dick as a career?" And she was like, "Well, I kind of do think you did that for the last 10 years. Baby, Rosie is here with the shit, and I'm here for." She said, "If I'm going to be honest, you, your only coworker was the girl that was in Florida." So with nothing else to say, Kelsey throws a question at Rosie and said, "So do you suck your husband off?" And Rosie says, "Not really. That's not really my thing." And then Kelsey says, "Well, let me know when you want a divorce lawyer." Girl, you ain't never been married. So how you gonna get her a divorce lawyer? How you gonna get her information on the divorce lawyer? Kelsey, shut the fuck up. You've been projecting all season. You don't have no reason to not like this lady. And now you're sitting here on the reunion looking like a dumbass. So Andy said, "Joellen, you and Kelsey both questioned whether Rosie has slept with a coach. Where did that rumor come from? And Rosie couldn't wait to get it out her mouth. She said that shit was on Reddit 3 years ago. And I said, what the fuck? Y'all mean to tell me y'all getting rumors on Rosie from fucking Reddit? Now, granted, it be some good shit on Reddit, but seriously, Joella and Kelsey, Reddit? So Joella, thinking she got the receipts that she do not have, jumps in and said, I think he was asking me. Well, answer the fucking question, Joella. So then Andy, it's kind of clear that he might not be feeling Rosie because he said, you got all this look from road tripping. And she said, no, it was because I was on ABC 10, which was like the number one station in Rhode Island. It had 90% viewership. And so basically she was saying, don't come for me, motherfucker, because I know what I was doing. But people were wondering what was going on with me. They were assuming things. I went on medical leave because I had a medical emergency. She said I was bleeding from my ass. And I didn't want people to know that. So people was assuming some shit. So she begins to tell us about this actual scenario that they are referring to. And she was like, he was having an affair with a student reporter. That was not me. I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have an affair with this man. It was the student reporter. And she wanted to know, how do you know this shit? So Kelsey was like, if this happened between a faculty member and a student, this would have been heavily investigated. And basically, long story short, she said that the coach was getting pulled over by a cop who was about to receive a DUI and in a police report. Rosie's name was in a police report. Now, Kelsey and Joellen is vouching for this. And Rosie said, no, it's not. My name is not in the police report because this never happened. I was never in a car with this man. It never happened. And then she doubled down on it and said, well, if it's in the police report, y'all found this out from a police officer, bring the receipts. Produce me the motherfucking police report. Show me. At some point in this argument about this so-called rumor, Alicia is getting sick of. She said, look, I think it wasn't her. It was another girl. I think it was the student. And Kelsey said, honestly, people around Rhode Island knows Rosie Woods' a reputation. Well, what the fuck is your reputation, bitch? So here goes Joellen backpedaling and pussy popping. Riding the fence, gonna say, look, honestly, I heard you did it, but look, he's not attractive. What the fuck that got to do with anything? You guys are up here accusing this lady of having an affair with a married man. And while you're doing that, you know that she's married. You know that her family is going to see this shit. You know that his family is going to say this shit. And y'all are gun ho or trying to destroy this woman's image that she has curated for herself. Get the fuck up out of here. So then Andy turns to Liz and asks, Liz, do you think Rosie and Kelsey don't like each other? And Liz is basically saying, look, I think it's just a complete misunderstanding, and they actually are more alike than they know. And if they took the time to get to know each other, they might discover that. So we wrap up that conversation and we move forward and we move on to Miss Liz. And I want to send my condolences as a pet mom to Liz. She lost her fur baby, Ganja. The cat that we saw in the opening, she has lost him. I had 2 dogs. I had those dogs before. I have 3 kids. One of them was 1 when I got the first one, and then the other 2 came along as we had those. When I tell you the heartache I felt losing those dogs, I digress. So we find out that Liz did lose her pet cat Ganja. Like I said, sending condolences. But with all this sadness, we do find out that her stepdaughter, and I'm not even gonna put step in there, her daughter had the baby. So she came up with the name Gigi, and she also calls the baby Gigi. We did find out that they had a girl. He inquires about the wedding, and she is looking at venues as we speak. So maybe season 2 we might have a wedding. So we jump to a viewer question, and I'm paraphrasing. The viewer basically said, I don't think people know how huge that was for Liz to jump from no children to 3 children. And I think this is in reference to the scene where Liz, Kelsey, and Rulla sat down for lunch and they had a conversation, and she brought up the fact that, Liz doesn't have any children. And I completely agree with this viewer. You don't necessarily have to have biological kids to know what it's like to be a mother. And if you take on that role as a mother, That's big of you. And coming from a woman who's had that experience where I know who my bio mom is, but at a certain point, we wasn't with her. We got my auntie and my uncle who do not have any children, and they took care of us. And to this day, at the great age of almost 38, my emergency contacts is my husband and my parents, who are my uncle and my aunt, who raised me with no children of their own. Excuse me if y'all hear a little chewing. Your girl got hungry. Anywho, Andy brings up, hey, how did you guys basically, I'm paraphrasing, how did you guys find out y'all were related, you and your husband, outside of being husband and wife? She said, hey, look, um, my mom's mom didn't know, didn't really know who her dad was, who she thought was her dad, wasn't her dad, and that's how we found out that we are related. But it's so farther down the line that it won't have no problems. Andy does go on to ask Liz, did her and Gary ever plan to have more kids? And that was in the plans, but it just never seemed like the right time. And then that's when we jump into the conversation on that scene where Willis says, see, when you don't produce children, when you haven't produced children, you might not understand what I'm experiencing. Willis said, hey, that was never my intentions to hurt you by saying that, you're a great mother, basically. So we move on today and we get into a viewer question. And the viewer question really was geared towards Rulla, insinuating that Liz and Gary may have or may not have had some infidelity within their relationship. And this starts up a shitstorm because Liz, like, if you want to bring up this conversation that we had or whatever you got going on, bring it up. Don't half step when you're talking about some shit because I'm here to deliver the answers. And long story short, during the separation period with Liz and Gary, that Liz was at her favorite island, Block Island, and Rulla happened to see Liz canoodling with somebody else. Her and her husband were separated. That is not the same thing as you and Cheater B, Rulla. And you know this. Rulla, you got some imagery issues. So Rulla says, do I have anything confirmed? I was just busting her chops. And Joellen chimes in and says, that is not funny. You see, Joellen, this is where I come in and I say you riding the fence because you're telling Rulla this isn't funny, that she's insinuating that she's cheating, that Liz is cheating on her husband. But there you is, sitting side by side with Kelsey, making the insinuation that Rosie was doing the same thing with her husband. You're going to have to pick a side. You can't ride the fence. So Liz calls her out. She said, look, you looking like you want to say something. You got something to say it. Like, I'm here for it. So that's when what I reiterated earlier about going over there to the island and seeing her canoeing with somebody. So we get deeper in the conversation, and Liz is like, I want you to reiterate any conversation that you and I had in reference to infidelity. And Rulla takes a long ass pause because she knows she ain't had no conversation with Liz about no infidelity. So Liz gives us the 411 on what took place between what the hell Rulla is talking about. She said her and Gary was separated. She seen a guy she haven't seen in over 30 years. They had a good time. It was over Labor Day weekend. She was with her girlfriends over there at Block Island. And she said she had a great time. But lo and behold, the next morning at 6 a.m., Gary gets a phone call from Rulla and Cheater B. And this sound really reminiscent with the situation that happened between Joellen and her workplace. So Rulla is like, that is a lie. I's in our call, da 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 da. And Liz basically said, I actually wanted to thank you. I've been waiting 4 years to thank you because that's actually what I wanted to happen. I wanted someone that knew Gary and I to see what I was doing on Block Island and get the word back to Gary. And it worked. So Liz is like, let it out, you're screaming like an animal. And Joella makes her little slide remark, and then it starts. Rulla gets activated. She got the new nose, her lip is lifted, and she lets loose. She told her to shut the fuck up. Rulla, you got a lot of balls for somebody that don't want to admit that their husband is on some bullshit. Jolene said they love to call people, and Liz said, you thought you had your aha moment, but I actually wanted someone to do this, and I'm paraphrasing. So Andy did ask Liz, well, what was the whole situation with you and Kelsey with the ongoing quote or whatever? She said, that was really unwarranted. First of all, it was unwarranted. I want to apologize. I'm sorry, and you know that. But she also iterated that Kelsey knew that she was struggling with this rumor and how this accusation had become harmful to their lives. So the fact that she's my friend and she's reiterating something that she know isn't true and that has played a part in, trying to destroy what me and Gary has, that's why I was snapping. Also, Liz, you need to add that you was drunk as shit. So then Andy asks Kelsey, when did you and Dino hook up? Was it before or after your ex? And Kelsey said that it happened that first year that I was competing for Miss Rhode Island. And see, Kelsey, this is why you get on my nerves, because he asked you a direct question and you did not give us a direct answer. So then we move on from there and we get another viewer question. And I'm paraphrasing that viewer question was for Alicia. And basically, they were asking, did you not want it to look like you were a flip flopper when the conversation was brought up between you and Rosie about the Liz situation? So then Alicia gives her explanation, and she pretty much like me and Liz is cut from the same cloth. I'm just a little bit more softer than she is, but don't fuck with her. Alicia, during the season, I would have said that you was scared of her, but I can respect how you are standing up for yourself in this reunion and in the other episodes. So I'm not going to necessarily say you're scared of her. Now, I will say you don't like confrontation. So Ashley was asked by Andy, hey, on the show, you said that Liz was scary. Are you scared of Liz? And she said, I still think Liz is an intimidating character. But then she cleaned it up and said, Liz has this aura of power that comes with her, and it could be intimidating. And I actually really, I love how Ashley summed that up, because she's absolutely right. Liz does have an aura about herself that comes off intimidating. And Liz, you're going to have to let those walls down, because I do genuinely think you are a good person and you have a great heart. So Andy asks, by show of hand, how many of you women up here are actually scared of Liz? And Alicia said, it depends on the day. Rosie said, sometimes, and I think Rosie said, well, like Coppa was, and then Joellen chimed in and said, yeah, Coppa was. And then Liz was like, oh, really? Yeah, oh. And Liz, you're looking like a mean girl in this moment. This girl is telling you how she feels. I think that's your problem, Liz. You can express how you feel or the things you think or say anything out of your mouth, but when it comes to other people expressing how they feel, their feelings, it don't matter. And that can cause a problem. So they go to break, and Rulla is trying to plead her case with Liz, and we just don't want to hear Rulla. It looks like you're a compulsive liar, and that you're going to bag Chickabee up to no ends of the world, which doesn't make you look like a good woman. So this is going to be a long review. When I edit it, I'm going to put it on a 1.25 speed. Anyways, moving along. Andy asks, who on this cast knew about Ashley before she got here? And Kelsey said, I knew about Ashley. I've been following her since 2015. And pretty much what you see is what you get. And then we find out that in the season, we had a Ashley cry moment counter. And she cried a total of 7 times within this season. And she's already cried on a reunion. But that's just her personality. I really like Ashley. I think Ashley is needed. She is non-confrontational. And she does put things in a perspective of an unbiased situation. So, with that, he asked, how many times do y'all think she cried? And Rulla and Alicia was the ones who picked the lucky number 7. So then Andy asked, well, how did you know these ladies? And she was like, only person I knew in this friend group was Rosie. And I actually met Rosie through a friend setup date. She said, it's really hard to develop friendships, caring in many friendships, paraphrasing, in your 30s, especially with me and her being in different phases of our life. But Rosie tends to meet you where you are. So when we're getting ready to have a girls' night, she'll come over, play with my kids, meet me at the zoo, because she know I'm a mom and I have 3 kids. And in order for us to have a good friendship and curate a friendship, she has to meet me where I am. So a viewer question came in and they said, I saw somewhere Kelsey said that Ashley doesn't hang out with the other girls. And he asked Joellen, how does she feel about it? And Joellen basically said, yeah, she does hang out with Rosie because Rosie is her friend. But it's kind of hard to make mom friends, And she was like, also with her husband working as many hours as he worked, she does not have the help like I have with Gary to be able to watch them while I maneuver in the streets. I'm paraphrasing. Then Rulla chimes in. She said, I don't want to speak for Ashley, but seeing some of the dynamics that's going on within this group and her friends, that probably put a nasty taste in her mouth about, you know, going out and hanging out with these ladies. And as she said, that's definitely a component. So we switch gears in Andy's word, and we get to Joellen. And he said, Joellen, you said you had a wild time in your 20s. And she said, I did. I was in my 20s. I was in a sorority. And it is what it is. And Rulla just could not wait for Joellen to speak because she wanted to try to just obliterate her character. And Joellen has been pretty straightforward with us when it comes to her life and how she grew up. Joellen was like, "Oh, you want to talk about?" She was like, "You never got kicked out of college. You never did anything bad in high school." And Joellen like, "You want to talk about shit when I was in high school when I was a minor under the age of 18? How classy of you." And Rulla, all these little shots that you are taking at Joellen are not hitting. They are missing at every point. So Rulla and Joellen do that back and forth. And he does his job by bringing it back in. And he said, when you and your mom were talking about it, she said that you were lying and you said you were sneaking out for what? Joellen basically said, look, I was a dumb teenager who thought I could get away with stuff. I went in the bathroom, I turned the shower on, I snuck out the window to go see my boyfriend. This is all teenage shit that we do. We do things thinking that we won't get caught when our parents have been there, done that, and know how to get away with things. I have an almost 17-year-old going through that same experience now, not him sneaking out the window or nothing like that, but teenage shit. I'm still not going to send my child away to no home where no murderers and all that stuff is. Andy, go ahead and ask Joellen how her relationship with her mom is now. Have they ever considered therapy? Joellen said, yes, we consider therapy. We actually participated in therapy, but me and her relationship is not on good terms. She's actually mad. And actually, she told me if I come up here and I talk bad about her, she won't watch the kids. Joellen, you are doing right. I actually think you should disconnect from her. So then we get a viewer question, and the viewer basically wanted to know how Joellen family felt about her stealing Gary from her sister Jen. And Joellen sets the news straight. She said, look, they were kids. She had a crush on him. He touched her boob when they was in the 7th grade. They never kissed. They never was in a relationship. That is it. The little joke that she made is kind of like a family joke. And that's just it. So we move on to the next question, and it was Andy asked, "Who of you guys heard that she was a swinger?" Only person who hand went up really was Rulla, but then Ashley chimed in and was like, "Well, she brought it up to us when we went to lunch one day and we talked about it." And Andy wanted to know where this rumor came from. She said, "Really, honestly, I don't know. One day my neighbor came and said something to me, and then we had this thing going back and forth where we were placing signs in each other's yard, upside down pineapples, and that's it." So then we get down to the get down. And Andy asks Joellen, so Cheater B admitted to calling your employer. So how is work going for you since then? And basically she let us know that she got laid off from that job. She no longer works that job. Rulla had a lot to say. Rulla said that is not the reason you got laid off. Tell the truth. Joellen said, I'm not sure if him contacting someone, and then let's get the story straight. Cheater B contacted a colleague of mine. Somehow it got to HR, and my boss had to come and talk to me about it. I'm not sure if that's what got me laid off, but I don't think so. So they're going back and forth. Joellen tell that lady to shut up because she was not done speaking, and she also wanted to know why she's still here. She was only like in 3 episodes. Andy then asks, how has this had an effect on your career? Are you still working? And she said, I actually decided a couple of weeks ago that after 20 some years of it being in the workforce, that this has become too much and I'm going to decide to be a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, you didn't got too famous, girl. You can't work. And I'm pretty sure, when they get to renewing, those checks gonna be pretty nice. So the Queen of Deflection and Delusion, Rulla, as Andy announced that we are going to take a break, she says, I actually have papers showing Brian's surgery records. And Rulla is so dumb because whenever Joella has something to say, she gives us an answer without realizing she gives us an answer. Joella says, girl, Brian gives you AI shit all the time. He gave you AI pamphlet saying that he was going to be away at a conference, you know, an aesthetic conference. And Rulla said, that lady said, "Oh my God, that was before he haven't been to a conference in like forever." And somebody yelled out, "You're delusional." And I absolutely fucking agree with whoever said it. Rulla is delusional. She is okay with allowing Cheater B to sit up there and make her look like a complete ass. But I'm not gonna just put it on him. I'm actually gonna put it all on her because you're allowing yourself to sit up here and look stupid for a man who don't give a damn about you. As the ladies are leaving and going to their respective dressing rooms, Rulla and Joellen are having a sidebar, and Rulla is like, "Joellen, I told you to leave it alone. I'm handling." She was like, "And I did, but you actually thought this wasn't gonna be brought up. This is the fucking reunion. This is where we bring it up at." So we move on to the next topic, and that is Liz. Excuse me, Liz and Alicia in this whole "you were not homeless" situation, and I'm so glad we had the reunion. I swear this better be the last fucking time we hear about if or if not Alicia was truly homeless. In this portion of the reunion, I have come to the consensus that Liz is paranoid. And it comes off crazy as hell. Uh, I think because you've been by yourself for so long, and I mean, like, you know, your mom passing and everything, you've put yourself in a space to have walls up to create situations and scenarios so that you won't get disappointed in the actions that take place around you. Um, in the season, Joellen did take accountability for, you know, egging on that situation that happened down there in Boston. But Liz, this situation with Alicia, you were in the wrong, and you're gonna have to accept that. This portion of the reunion, I care not to speak on any further because when Alicia family, her mother, and her aunts and cousins backed her up and saying that they were homeless, that's the end of discussion. So I'm not going to discuss it anymore. Liz does tell us at the reunion that she does feel like that this conversation that took place in the car between Alicia, Joella, and herself was a plot. So on each franchise of the Housewives, we have ladies who believe they are the subject of a plot. If you're watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, you know what I'm talking about. Moving on. Joel Allen said, "Look, Liz, this is a situation that you manufactured in your brain. I didn't know shit about this. You know, I'm not going up scrolling at the 5,200 messages to open up a voice memo about some shit." So then Alicia and Liz, they have they back and forth. And I'm just gonna let y'all know. I was here for Alicia standing up for herself. She like, why would I do that? Why would I put myself in a manufactured situation that have me shaking? You know that's not true. I did not say that. You are lying. Why would I put myself in a situation that have a nervous breakdown? I mean, come on, are you kidding me? Andy said, in the car, it appears that you were upset at Alicia, but then it turned to Joellen, and he basically wanted to know what she was feeling, and she was like, you know, they both knew what was going to happen. I felt ambushed, and that's because you're paranoid. They were talking about the situation, and you just jumped down Alicia's throat. Basically, you wanted Joellen to kiss your ass and stand up for you in a way that you told Rulla that you weren't going to do, or none of these ladies were going to do. If you were going to adjust Joellen, you yourself had to. Joellen basically was saying, look, in the car, it was getting intense. I didn't want them, I know that they love and care about each other. I didn't want them to keep going back and forth, plus aware on camera. Everybody intentions and were going into certain situation always fall back on they felt like they were trying to protect one another. But trying to protect someone who don't know you're trying to protect them is a problem. Y'all not having conversations. Liz love and care and have affection for Alicia's family. She's been knowing them her whole life. She didn't want people to get the wrong impression or idea about the family, so she honed in on the fact that Alicia was a homeless. That kind of soured because her family, in fact, all said that Alicia and her mother were homeless. Moving on. Then you have the situation with Joella and Liz, and we find out The other reason why Joellen and Liz have gotten to is because Joellen had borrowed something from Liz and it smelled like cigarette smoke. Liz, for the people that do not smoke cigarettes, cigarette smoke bothers them. And it's a smell that is nauseating. So it just is what it is. She was trying to be nice and ask you, did you want it dry? Even though I didn't wear it, did you want me to dry clean it first? Or do you want me to send it back to you funky like you gave it to me? I think she was trying to do a good thing. Liz is upset with Joellen because she felt like Joellen wasn't being a good mediator. And this is an issue for me because you don't like anybody speaking up for you. But then also, it sounds like you wanted her to be on your side or to kiss your ass. And she was just like, Alicia, the way you feeling, your feelings are validated. And you wanted Joellen to come to your defense and say, that's not what you mean. That's not her, not her heart. Actually, we don't know what you mean. So as Liz and Joellen are going back and forth, Rulla takes it upon herself to chime in, and Joellen just loses. She like, shut the fuck up. We are talking. It's not your turn. And then they go back and forth about looks, and Rulla says, I don't have to take Ozempic to look like this, but it looked like you need to eat something because you too bony, man. They say the camera adds on 10 pounds. And if that's true, that's disheartening because you look ill. So we go into the conversation, iterating why Liz was so upset with Joellen. She like, you kept antagonizing me, you kept putting your hands on me. Joellen's like, look, this is a sign of affection. I was trying to calm you down. I was trying not to have you looking out here. It was on camera. And Andy said, had her look from what? And Joellen just flat out said, looking crazy. Because Liz, that's exactly what's going on. You were looking crazy. Liz says, oh wow, says the biggest psychopath on the planet. And Joellen, sometimes friendships are meant for a season. You guys maybe can take a page from Rosie and Kelsey and just learn to coexist because Liz is absolutely right. You do attach yourself to problematic women trying to seek their approval and receive love from them. And I think you were right in saying maybe I do need to distance myself from her and my mother. And I think you should continue therapy to have an understanding on why you choose to you know, pick women like this to be a part of your life. I was hoping you and Liz can move past it because I like you both, but you guys can coexist without being and be friendly without being best friends. They break for lunch just in time because I'm pretty sure Alicia is going to go find her a cracker. And then they go and have a side by conversation. Of course, Alicia and Joellen are having a chit chat. Kelsey is kissing Liz's ass and is in Liz's dressing room having a conversation with her. And yeah, they break. They come back from break and Andy asks Liz, you know, what I'm trying to have some understanding on why you felt ambushed and why you was going for Joellen. And this is when Alicia put her big girl panties on. And she like, I don't understand how you feel ambushed or attacked when it was me that was getting that. Like I said, I'm done with this conversation. I don't even have the bandwidth to continue giving y'all the review for this part of the conversation. So this is where I'm gonna wrap it up. The lady was homeless. So we get down to the nitty gritty with the conversation of Liz pulling on Joellen's hair. Joellen brought that up at the restaurant. Liz said that she was the devil. She did not do that. We got a replay. She did tug at that lady hair and she did push her away in that chair. Joellen's thing was, okay, you said that when we met up for dinner. I know what I know. But after this has been edited and aired, you see on the episode that you did what I said you did and you still chose not to reach out to me and apologize about it. Yeah, maybe I was wrong about where we stood at within our friendship. Liz says, hey, Jolene, everybody here has witnessed you doing bizarre shit. Yes, I did it. I was wrong. And then Ruler tries to chime in, and Liz said, look, shut your ass up because this is my time. You'll have your time. This is my time right now. So Andy asked Liz, do you think you owe her an apology for what happened at Capo? She said, no. And will I ever? No, I don't owe her an apology. My bad, you guys. So we find out that Rosie and Joellen have gotten together in a never before seen portion and found out that they had something in common, which was their mothers. But Rosie felt like that, because they're a group, one band, one sound type of thing. That was one of the reasons why they was calling Alicia a flip flopper, because Alicia was getting to know me and actually was liking me, and they were sticking together. Now at the mansion, she felt like they was gonna get up on her, and Kelsey did admit that after rewatching the episode, she could see how she felt with that compliment. It was backhanded. So somewhere in the conversation, Rosie said, "Joanna, I thought we was getting cool, but then I saw you on Instagram posting things called road tripping, like trying to be funny, mocking my job." And Joanna was like, "Look, I talked to my social media girl. I saw her. She got to be careful with the wording." Da 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 da. Rosie said, "Yeah, I don't believe you got a social media girl. Joanna, you ain't that big to have a social media girl. So I don't know. I think you might be on some funny business here." And then this is where Miss Rulla herself gets some balls and begins to go off on Joellen, and Joellen told her to shut the fuck up. Actually, she's glad that she's speaking up for herself. Ruler calls her a whore, said she been sleeping with different doctor. She said she don't know what's bigger, her mouth or her crotch. And Ruler, your reads are tired, tacky, and they do not make sense. Ruler then calls Joellen a slut, and Joellen get the cast to get quiet because she said, Ruler, guess what? Your husband's a slut. And everybody up there know that Cheetah B is that of a slut. And no one had anything to say. Joellen said, keep talking and I'm going to break your fucking nose. The new nose you just got done that you waited 25 years to make the decision to get redone, I'm going to break it if you keep fucking talking. Then Ruler says, they all fucking know. Y'all all know. She said, no, what? She said that you're a fucking whore. Ruler, all of this misdirected anger that you have for your husband, you are taking out on this woman, and you just making yourself look more and more like a fucking fool. And that little outburst from Ruler wrapped up part 1 of the Real Housewives of Rhode Island season 1 reunion. And I must say, you can tell that this is these ladies' first reunion. I don't think they knew what to expect. Rulla is losing her fucking mind. Rosie and Alicia has stood firm and 10 toes down on what they had to say. We only got Ashley to cry one time. Joe Elliott is taking accountability for all of the shit that she has done this season, and Kelsey still cannot give us a reason on why she does not like Rosie. But those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions on the reunion part 1. If you guys have made it all the way for this long ass video, and like I said, I'm going to 1.25 times it when I edited it because right now it's sitting at an hour and 20 some minutes. Anywho, if you made it to the end of this video, drop down in the comments for me. Have some Discord. Please tell me what you guys are thinking about part 1 of this reunion. With that being said, I'm your girl, Miss O, and this is what I had to say about the Real Housewives of Rhode Island reunion part 1.